Apparently my car forgot to send the memo that it's not a flower. I can see! Today's vlog is going to be a review of this book, The Last Command by Zahn, and the two books previously in this series, which were Heir to the Empire and Dark Force Rising. You know, it kind of feels weird vlogging from this position and not having the big camera on. Anyway, so what's going on, regulars? Last night I finished The Last Command by Zahn, which is the third in the Thrawn trilogy of Star Wars novels. They are the first three Star Wars novels that were officially licensed after Return of the Jedi. And I gotta say, I've absolutely loved that series of books. I've tried reading some other Star Wars novels in the past. I've read like Shadows of the Empire, and there's another one. Now I can't even remember it. And I got a couple more that I haven't read yet. But this was the first one that I really felt like could officially just be like the continuation of the Star Wars saga. And if George Lucas had an ounce of sense, and I hate saying that because I grew up idolizing the man because of the Star Wars movies, but if he'd had a lick of sense, he would have made the Thrawn trilogy instead of episodes 1, 2, and 3. Because they are so much better than anything in the prequels. They actually feel like continuations of the Star Wars story instead of this kind of, I'll say it, half-assed attempt at telling the prequel story, which there's really no point in doing because we all know what's going to happen. And when I have children, they are not going to watch the Star Wars movies in chronological order. They're going to watch them in the order they actually were originally released. They're going to watch 4, 5, and 6, and then if they want to, 1, 2, and 3. But they are watching 4, 5, and 6 first. But I'm digressing. And what I loved about the Thrawn trilogy is that, like, it's just so well written, and it feels so much like exactly like the original movies. And like the structure is similar. The characters feel exactly how they should feel as you're reading them. They act the way you expect them to act. And I don't know, maybe this is just me, but some of the other Star Wars books that I've read, the characters seem to do things slightly off from how I would have expected them to act. And that, I'm sure that's up to the author's discretion, but sometimes it seems like it's just for plot, and then that kind of takes you out of the book. You're like, well, that doesn't sound like something that Luke would say or do. So then you're just kind of thrown out of the mix. And this it felt like it was literally 5 years later. It felt like Return of the Jedi happened, 5 years passed, and now you got this Grand Admiral Thrawn, who is just a mad genius tactician who can pretty much predict like every move they're gonna make. It actually made me mad when I started reading these books, because every time they'd go to Thrawn, he'd be like, he'd just immediately know what had just been discussed, and I was just like, how does he know? And it was frustrating, and that helped with the book too, because here's this guy who is a legit threat. Like, he legitimately could have taken over, and there's a lot of kind of luck on the part of the New Republic getting away with some of the stuff and having help that Thrawn didn't expect them to have, and having to deal with the crazed Jedi Master that he tried to enlist to help out. And it was just, there was so much going on, and it was so wonderfully written, and like it was hard to put them down. Like, I finished them pretty quick. Outside of having to stop for various other responsibilities. But, like, I pretty much, the first one especially, I plowed through Heir to the Empire in, like, 5 days, I think. And then Dark Force Rising and Last Command took me a little longer, and I just finished Last Command last night. So I'm coming very fresh off of the final part of the trilogy, and it was so well done. And something that happens, like, when you're a writer and a reader and you study story structure, you're able to predict a lot of what's going to happen. And Timothy Zahn is one of the first people that I've read in a long time that has held me completely in suspense for the majority of the books. I'll pick up like little bits here and there. I was like, oh, well, they're probably going to go this way, or it's probably going to go this way. But for most of it, I was drawing a blank. I was like, where is this going? And for somebody who has read, like I said, has read as much and writes as much as I do, like, you kind of start to predict stuff. And like, even like all the movies I've watched, like, there is a certain formula to story structure. If you know the type of story you're watching, you can kind of predict where it's going to go. And even, like, I'll sit there and say, like, oh, this is going to go one of, like, 3 ways, and then it is one of those 3. I did that with, Book of Eli with Denzel Washington. I sat there and looked at it, I was like, okay, this is going to be one of, like, 3 things that's going to happen, and I was right. I don't want to give you any spoilers in case you haven't seen it, but it's worth seeing. But I did actually predict that. I knew where it was going. I didn't know 100%, but I had kind of inklings that it was going to go one of 3 ways, and I was right. But the Thrawn trilogy kept me completely in suspense. I had no idea what Thrawn was doing. I had no idea what Joruus was doing. No idea what Card was going to wind up doing. It was constantly a surprise, and I loved that. I love when books can still surprise me, and that's why I keep reading, because I want to be surprised. I don't want the same story. I don't want the same basic structure. I want something different. I want something new, you know? And the Thrawn trilogy is like one of the first things in a long time that I've read that I was completely surprised by. And I love that happened. So if you have not read them, I highly recommend it. Even if you're not really that much of a Star Wars fan, I think the story kind of holds up on its own. They give you enough to play with. They go into enough explanation, so if you're not that familiar with episodes 4, 5, and 6, you still get the gist. And I gotta mention Mara Jade, because she's become like a pretty stable character in the expanded universe. And this was her introduction. This was the first time that she was introduced, and she is an amazing character. Because she just, I don't know, she has such an interesting history, and she has such kind of a pivotal role to play in the story, because she was the Emperor's hand. Well, I'm not going to go that far into it. You'll figure that out if you want to read it. I don't want to spoil anything for people who do want to actually genuinely read these things for themselves. But she was such a great character, and I like how that whole thing played out with her. And I already knew what was going to happen in the future because I have read later books. But it was very cool to kind of see her origins as far as the expanded universe stories, because that's something that I never knew. And I didn't know she started like pretty much the first expanded universe book out there. Like, that was when she was introduced. I thought she came along later. So that was another surprise. But anyway, I'm rambling a bit, and that's just because I want to get all these thoughts out before they fade away. And I'm probably going to write an actual review for this and the rest of the series, because this is kind of an all-in-one, but I've already done one for Heir of the Empire, so I'm going to do one for Dark Force Rising and Last Command. But I'm going to post those on Library Thing, and I might post them on Goodreads if I can figure out how the website works, because I'm new to Goodreads. I set up my account like maybe a month ago at the behest of some other YouTubers, just some other friends of mine online who said that I should, sign up for Goodreads because I seem to read a lot and share my thoughts. So I did that, and I haven't done anything with the page yet. And I'm kind of behind on my Library Thing account too, because I haven't put some of these books on there yet. But anyway, I will put a link to my Library Thing profile and my Goodreads profile down in the description. You guys can go check those out. Check out my reviews, because I've been trying this year to review every book that I read. And I've got a number of them up now, but I'm going to keep doing that. And what are you guys reading right now? Let me know, because I'm always looking for new stuff to read. I got a bunch of stuff I need to read. But anyway, let me know. So that's going to be it for me today. As always, I hope you're all well, and I will see you tomorrow.